took a look at the erosion around the Sphinx and eventually came to the conclusion that the best explanation for it was that this Sphinx enclosure had been subjected to at least 1,000 years of extremely heavy rainfall.
The Great Sphinx shows clear signs of water erosion. The problem? There hasn't been enough rain in the Sahara to cause that for over 10,000 years. That single fact could unravel the entire history of ancient Egypt. This is just one of the bombshells author Graham Hancock has dropped on the academic world. He argues that the pyramids, the Sphinx, and other ancient wonders are not 4,500 years old, but are in fact relics of a much older, more advanced civilization, a culture that was nearly wiped from the face of the earth. A story that doesn't add up. The story you learned in school is simple. Around 2560 BCE, the pharaoh Khufu commissioned the Great Pyramid of Giza as his final resting place. Over 20 years, tens of thousands of skilled laborers, using nothing but copper tools, ropes, and sheer muscle, built the most massive and precise stone structure in human history. To put it mildly, mainstream Egyptologists see it as a triumph of Bronze Age engineering. But many people are crazy about another idea, one that says this official story isn't just flawed, it's a complete fantasy. And you can see this everywhere once you start looking. Let's talk numbers. The Great Pyramid is made of roughly 2.3 million limestone and granite blocks. Some of these monsters weigh up to 80 tons, the equivalent of a dozen elephants. The most shocking fact is that many of the granite blocks in the inner chambers were hauled from a quarry in Aswan, over 500 miles away. The official explanation involves sledges and barges, but the logistics are staggering. To finish in just 20 years, a new block, weighing several tons, would need to be perfectly cut, transported, and set in place every 2 minutes, 24 hours a day. No breaks, no mistakes, no bad weather. For a civilization without the wheel or iron tools, that timeline seems less like an engineering marvel and more like a miracle. What many overlooked is the complete absence of any blueprint. The ancient Egyptians were meticulous record keepers. We have their laundry lists, their tax records, and thousands of religious texts. Yet, for the single greatest construction project of the ancient world, there are zero architectural plans, no schematics, not even a single instruction manual. It's as if the pyramids simply appeared, fully formed. For critics like Graham Hancock, this silence is deafening. It suggests the knowledge didn't originate with the Egyptians, but was inherited from someone else entirely. Then there are the tools. The official story claims copper chisels were used to carve granite, one of the hardest stones on Earth. That's like trying to cut a diamond with a butter knife. You see, copper is a relatively soft metal. Modern stonemasons with diamond-tipped power tools find granite challenging. Yet inside the king's chamber, the granite coffer is carved with laser-like precision, with perfectly flat surfaces and sharp right angles. How was this achieved with primitive tools? The thing nobody tells you is that no one has a good answer. And for a tomb, the Great Pyramid is bizarrely empty. Most Egyptian tombs are covered in elaborate hieroglyphics and art celebrating the pharaoh's life. The Great Pyramid, however, has nothing. Its massive inner chambers are cold, sterile, and undecorated. This stark minimalism is completely out of character for the culture of the time, leading Hancock to question if it was ever a tomb at all. Finally, there's the jaw-dropping precision. The pyramid is aligned to true north with an accuracy of within 3/60 of a degree, more precise than the Royal Observatory in Greenwich, London. This was achieved without a compass, GPS, or modern surveying equipment. It points to a deep, sophisticated knowledge of astronomy that seems far beyond a Bronze Age society. All these anomalies, when looked at together, paint a picture of a structure whose origins are far more mysterious than the history books admit. But if the Egyptians didn't build it, who did? And when? A cataclysm's survivors. This is where the story takes a sharp turn into the deep past, thousands of years before the first pharaohs. The most powerful piece of evidence for a much older pyramid complex doesn't come from an ancient text, but from the stone itself. Graham Hancock points to the work of Dr. Robert Schoch, a Boston University geologist who studied the Great Sphinx. What many overlooked were the deep, vertical fissures on the Sphinx's body and the enclosure walls. These aren't the marks of wind and sand erosion, which creates horizontal patterns. They are classic signs of erosion from thousands of years of heavy rainfall. Here's the bombshell. The Giza Plateau has been a hyper-arid desert for the last 5,000 years. To get the kind of water erosion seen on the Sphinx, you'd have to go back to a time before 10,000 BCE, when the Sahara was a lush green savanna. This pushes the age of the Sphinx back by at least 7,000 years, placing its construction firmly in the last ice age. If the Sphinx is that old, then the entire Giza complex, including the pyramids, might be part of a much older plan. Perhaps the pharaohs were not builders, but inheritors, who simply repaired and claimed these ancient structures for themselves. But the geology is just part of the puzzle. The other piece is written in the stars. The three main pyramids at Giza are not placed randomly. Their layout on the ground is a perfect mirror of the three stars in Orion's belt. This is known as the Orion correlation theory. But the thing nobody tells you is that the correlation isn't perfect for the year 2500 BCE. To find the best match, you have to rewind the celestial clock. Because of the slow wobble of the Earth's axis, a process called precession, the constellations shift their position in the sky over thousands of years. The layout of the pyramids on the ground perfectly matches the position of Orion's belt in the sky in one specific year, 10,500 BCE. That date, 10,500 BCE, is a lightning rod for Hancock. It's not just a random point in time. It coincides with the end of the last ice age, a period of violent climate change and global sea level rise known as the Younger Dryas. Hancock proposes that an advanced human civilization flourished during the Ice Age, only to be almost completely wiped out by a global cataclysm around this time. This would explain the sudden, almost overnight appearance of sophisticated agriculture, architecture, and astronomy around the world a few thousand years later. It wasn't invented, it was remembered by the survivors. The most shocking fact supporting this is the discovery of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Dated to 9600 BCE, it's a massive temple complex with intricately carved stone pillars, weighing many tons. It is 6,000 years older than Stonehenge, and was built by people who were supposedly simple hunter-gatherers. Göbekli Tepe proves that complex monumental construction was happening thousands of years before the official start of civilization. It's the smoking gun for a lost chapter of human history. This lost civilization may have left behind more than just stone monuments. A blueprint from a lost world. Even if you ignore the arguments about age, the question of how the pyramids were built remains a profound mystery. The level of craftsmanship seen at Giza and other ancient sites around the world suggests a technology that, to put it mildly, the builders should not have possessed. We're talking about a level of precision that modern engineers would find difficult to replicate, even with our advanced machinery. Inside the Great Pyramid, the granite blocks are fitted together so perfectly that you can't slide a piece of paper between them. Some of the casing stones that originally covered the exterior were polished to a standard that rivals modern optical equipment. The real head-scratcher is the evidence of machining. At several sites in Egypt, archaeologists have found granite cores that were drilled out of larger blocks. These cores show distinct spiral grooves, or rifling marks, that suggest a high-speed drill was used. In fact, analysis by engineer Christopher Dunn showed that the drill must have been applying a force of over 2 tons to cut through the granite that efficiently. This is far beyond what could be achieved by hand with copper tools. It looks for all the world like the work of a powerful, machine-driven tool. What many overlooked is that this technological fingerprint isn't just in Egypt. You can see this everywhere. In Peru, the megalithic walls of Sacsayhuaman feature enormous, irregularly shaped stones that lock together like a three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle. Some of these stones weigh over 100 tons. They are fitted so tightly, without mortar, that they have withstood centuries of earthquakes. In Lebanon, the Temple of Baalbek sits on a foundation of the largest worked stones on the planet, with 3 blocks known as the trilithon, weighing an estimated 800 tons each. No modern mobile crane could lift them. How is this possible? Hancock doesn't claim to know for sure, but he speculates that this lost civilization may have mastered technologies we are only now beginning to understand. Some theories propose the use of acoustic levitation or vibrational frequencies to move and cut stone. While that may sound like science fiction, the fact remains that the mainstream explanation of ropes and ramps simply doesn't hold up to scrutiny. Another wow factor is found in ancient maps. The Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513, famously shows the coastline of Antarctica, but without its ice cap. The last time that coast was ice-free was thousands of years ago, during the Ice Age. The map's creator said he compiled it from much older source maps. This implies that a seafaring culture with the ability to chart the entire globe existed long before recorded history. These maps, anomalous artifacts like the Baghdad Battery, and the consistent engineering style seen across continents all point to a single forgotten source, a global civilization with a shared legacy of advanced knowledge. So why is this groundbreaking evidence so fiercely rejected by the experts? The gatekeepers of history. If the evidence presented by Hancock and other researchers is so compelling, why isn't it front-page news? Why does the academic world not only reject these ideas, but often attack the people who propose them? The thing nobody tells you is that history isn't just about discovering the past, it's about protecting a narrative. Mainstream archaeology is a deeply established institution with its own rules, hierarchies, and gatekeepers. For generations, a specific timeline of human history has been taught in universities and published in textbooks. According to that timeline, civilization began in Sumer around 4000 BCE, and everything before that was a primitive world of hunter-gatherers. The pyramids fit neatly into this story as a product of the Egyptian Old Kingdom. Hancock's theory doesn't just add a new chapter, it tears the whole book apart. It suggests that the history of human civilization is thousands of years older and far more complex than we've been led to believe. To many in the academic world, this isn't just a new idea, it's heresy. You see, careers have been built on the established model. Reputations, funding, and tenure all depend on working within the accepted framework. To even consider that the pyramids might be 12,000 years old would mean admitting that generations of Egyptologists have been wrong about their most fundamental assumptions. That's a difficult pill to swallow. So, instead of engaging with the evidence, many scholars dismiss Hancock as a pseudoscientist and his work as sensationalism. They argue he cherry-picks data, ignores contradictory evidence, and builds a narrative for entertainment, not for science. What many seem to overlook, however, is that the very essence of science is supposed to be progress by challenging old, established ideas. History is filled with such revolutions. The theory of plate tectonics, now a cornerstone of geology, was once dismissed by the academic establishment as a ridiculous fantasy. The stunning discovery of Göbekli Tepe itself forced archaeologists to reluctantly admit that monumental architecture existed thousands of years before they had deemed possible. Despite these precedents, the institutional resistance to the notion of a lost Ice Age civilization remains incredibly strong, forming an intellectual fortress around established historical timelines. Author Graham Hancock argues this is because mainstream archaeology has ceased to be a science in the truest sense, an open-ended quest for knowledge, and has instead calcified into a dogma. It operates like a rigid belief system, one that aggressively defends its foundational narrative from any and all contradictory evidence, rather than embracing the anomalies as opportunities for growth. He accuses the field of a profound and willful ignorance, of systematically refusing to investigate the growing list of inconvenient truths that threaten the comfortable status quo. This isn't passive disagreement, it is an active and hostile gatekeeping. Evidence that doesn't fit the paradigm is labeled pseudoscience, and its proponents are dismissed as charlatans, effectively silencing dissent through academic ridicule and the denial of funding. In Hancock's view, the mystery of the pyramids, Göbekli Tepe, and other ancient wonders is not just an academic puzzle. It's a pivotal battle for the soul of our own origin story. It forces us to confront a deeply unsettling question that strikes at the core of our identity. Are we the proud, self-made pinnacle of a long, slow, linear climb from primitive beginnings, a species that gradually invented everything for the first time? Or are we a species with a crippling planetary amnesia, haunted by forgotten capabilities and struggling to remember a past that was far grander and more technologically advanced than we can possibly imagine? So, are the pyramids a message from a lost world, or just a tomb built by determined men? Perhaps the real mystery isn't who built them, but why we're so afraid to ask. Like and subscribe.